And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Harris Nguyen, who writes, "Hey, John and Rob. Rob is not here today. Okay, maybe file this one under take with a massive grain of salt. But I'm seeing a story going around that Sony wants to bring back Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire for Spider-Man 4, a direct sequel to their original Spider-Man trilogy. Yes, I know none of the major outlets are reporting this, but I wanted to know your thoughts on the chances of something like this, and could it even be possible?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Harris. And yes, for those of you who don't know, a report started going around about a day ago and making its way around the non-main trade. Like none of the trades, none of the real news sources are reporting this. Not Variety, not The Wrap, not Deadline, not Hollywood Reporter, not Entertainment Weekly. None of them are running this. But, you know, one of these little grain of salt rumors started going around that Sony was interested in bringing back Sam Raimi, who right now is, of course, working on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and Tobey Maguire, the original theatrical version of Spider-Man. And Sony wants to bring them back to actually do Spider-Man 4. To actually do Spider-Man 4. Now, on its surface, this looks like one of those rumors that you can easily dispel. Easily dispel this. I mean, possible? Of course, you know what we've been saying around here forever now. In a world where Jamie Foxx can come back as Electro, anything is possible. So sure, anything is possible. But it also has it smells an awful lot like one of these fly-by-night rumors, comes out, disappears, nothing ever comes of it. And by the way, Toodle Dundee sends in like a $50 super chat badge in the live chat. Dude, thank you so much for your support, man. That's amazing. Thank you, dude. That's very generous. I appreciate that, man. As does everybody involved here with the show. At any rate, so this rumor starts going around. This is what comes to us from the folks over at Comic Book Movie who write, like always, take this with a huge grain of salt. So even everybody else is saying this is a huge grain of salt thing. Take this with a huge grain of salt. Maybe even with a whole box of salt. But the website Giant Freaking Robot, who have had a few scoops pan out in the past, is reporting that Sony Pictures has expressed interest in bringing back both Raimi and Maguire for a potential fourth entry in their Spider-Man series. Whether that means exploratory talks have already begun is uncertain, but according to their sources, the hope is that Raimi would return to direct a film they believe will also feature Maguire and use it as a launching off point for Spider-Man 4. That, of course, comes to us from Comic Book Movie. All right. So the bottom line is, it's ridiculous, right? Right? This is totally preposterous. There's absolutely nothing to this, right? And by the way, MJ Nation sends a super chat badge as well. Thank you, dude. Nothing to this, right? This is a fairy tale. This is another piece of BS rumor. We shouldn't pay any attention to it. Blah, blah, blah. It has all the earmarks of that. Absolutely. But is it that crazy? Is it that crazy? Now, look, before I say anything else, do not misinterpret me. Do not misquote me. I am not saying this report is true. I am definitely not saying that this report is true. However, what I do want to propose is that facts and circumstances surrounding this rumor render this rumor not as crazy as you might initially think it could be. That there could actually be some rational reasoning here as to why you, an internet viewer and reader, might hear this and think, you know what, it is possible this could be true. Not saying it is, not even saying it's likely that it is. But there's enough sort of things here to me to suggest it may not be absolutely crazy. Let's jump over for a second into the Campea classroom, shall we? Let's jump over here for a minute. So I want to propose a couple of reasons why this particular idea that's being floated around out there, that Raimi and Maguire coming back to do a Spider-Man over at Sony, may not be completely out of the realm of possibility. The first one is this. The reality is Tom Holland's contract is coming up. What I basically mean by that, and by the way, Bruce Kraft sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Bruce. What I basically mean by that is we talked about this a little while ago. We know that Tom Holland, who is Spider-Man in the Marvelverse right now for the Sony and Marvel films, he has talked recently about, his contract is just about up. He's the number of films he signed on for his extension are expiring. Now, that doesn't mean he can't just tomorrow sit down and sign a new contract. There it is. There's my signature. New contract. New contract. So of course that could be done tomorrow. That could be done tomorrow. But for now, Tom Holland's contract is coming up, right? That is one little piece. That's just one little thing to keep in mind. Second thing to keep in mind, Disney and Sony were ready to kill their partnership before. Do you guys remember this, right? You guys remember this? That going back a little bit to last D23, Disney and Sony announced our deal is now done. No more Spider-Man in the MCU, and Tom Holland put out these social media messages. I'm so sad that I don't get to be Spider-Man anymore, but I've loved my time doing it, and I look forward. And he was saying, I'll do Spider-Man movies for Sony and all that kind of stuff. But we know that the Sony and Disney partnership over Spider-Man isn't going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. And their partnership, they at one time before did announce that they were going to end their partnership. Now, they then went back on that. They re-signed up for a new deal and they extended it a bit, but they only extended it so far. So, Tom Holland's contract is coming up. That can be fixed, but it is coming up for now. Disney and Sony have been ready to move on from their relationship once before. There's that. Raimi, another thing is Sam Raimi is hot again. I think Sam Raimi should always be considered a hot director. I think the dude is great. But with Sam Raimi now doing a Doctor Strange movie, Sam Raimi's news is like, Sam Raimi's name, I should say, is all over the news again. It's on the lips of everybody in the fan communities again because he's directing Doctor Strange. So we've got him being hot again. So there's that. Tobey's name is hot again. I mean, with the rumors going around that we could see Tobey Maguire pop up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Is that the name? I keep forgetting the name of the new Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Anyway, with the rumors going around, by the way, I personally do think he will appear, although there has been nothing official that says Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield will be in the next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I do believe they will be, but who knows? We'll see from there. But regardless of whether Tobey does show up in Spider-Man Far From Home, the fact of the matter is he has been a big topic of conversation ever since people started talking about this new Spider-Man movie. And when the name Tobey Maguire comes up, everybody gets excited, right? Have you heard anybody out there say, the idea of Tobey Maguire popping up in there is boring? Have you heard anybody say that? Like even when I doubted that we would see something like this, and I doubted very strongly we would see something like this, but even when I doubted it, I said, well, it would be exciting. I mean, it would be exciting, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's more like a YouTube video or everything. But obviously, I don't think you're going to find anybody out there who doesn't at least get their eyebrow up when they hear about the idea of a Tobey Maguire popping up at Spider-Man. So everybody's been talking about Tobey Maguire. So we got Tom Holland's contracts coming up. Disney and Sony have been ready to walk from their deal before. Sam Raimi's name is hot again. Tobey Maguire's name right now is super hot again. But there's a fifth thing I want to put in here that I think we should really pay attention to. Restoring old, I'll call it IP. Restoring old IP is the new hotness. Right? In the words of Will Smith. Restoring old IP right now is the new hotness. Everybody, like for instance, when word came out that we could see Michael Keaton as Batman again, however short it might be, When word came out that Michael Keaton, we could see him as Batman again in a Flash movie, everybody lost their minds. The idea of going back and reviving old franchises is the hottest thing in Hollywood right now. It's the hottest thing in Hollywood right now. So when you consider all these things put into one, when you consider the idea that we understand that Tom Holland's contract is coming up, we understand that Disney and Sony, their partnership isn't going to last forever. When you understand that Sam Raimi's is right now hotter right now than it's been in several years. When you understand that Tobey Maguire's name is really hot right now and people get excited about the idea of seeing Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And when you consider that there's a massive trend in Hollywood at the moment of restoring old IP, either in the form of particular characters and actors playing those characters or old franchises, whatever, and you understand that's one of the hottest trends in Hollywood right now. Now, I put this to you, and by the way, Mike Irvan sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that, dude. When you understand all 5 of those things, and then you hear, however reliable or unreliable the rumor is, this rumor that Sony is actually starting to have conversations with maybe a Raimi and a Tobey Maguire to revive that Sam Raimi Spider-Man idea, is it really so crazy? Now, again, if I had to put $5 down right now, if I had to bet $5 that we are going to see a Spider-Man 4 continuation of the Raimi Maguire Spider-Man universe, I would bet no. Okay? So I don't think this is actually going to happen. I don't buy it. But I also would not call you crazy, because that rumor is coming out in an environment where all these things that we're seeing here are actually very valid right now. Contextually speaking, Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire coming back to play Spider-Man in a Sony universe is not wildly unrealistic. And there's a difference, by the way, between being possible. Everything is possible. You can have something that's possible and wildly unrealistic at the same time. This whole Spider-Man thing is not only possible, it's also not wildly unrealistic. It's not wildly unrealistic. Now, obviously, this cannot happen as long as Marvel and Sony still have a deal that allows Marvel to make live-action Spider-Man. Because while they're doing that, Sony can't do their own live-action Spider-Man. But, as we've already talked, Tom Holland's contract is expiring. The deal is going to come to an end at some point. Barring them re-signing up, Raimi's name is hot, Maguire's name is hot, and it's all the rage in Hollywood right now to try to revive older IP, either in the form of the properties themselves or of certain characters. So, again, I don't think you're crazy. Now, let's jump down into just for a moment. Let's talk about this from a personal point of view for a second. And MJ Nation also sends another super chat badge. Thank you, man. Let's talk about this from a personal perspective for a second. Is it even something I would be interested in? Would I, or should I even be interested in the idea of seeing Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man? I'd be down. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people I'm sure would be yelling at their computer monitors right now. What about Tobey Maguire? I mean, what about Tom Holland? We love Tom Holland, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Tom, we love men in their mid-20s who look like they're 14. Oh, Tom. And by the way, I am one of you. I love Tom Holland. I love him as Spider-Man. I love just the charisma and energy he brings to what he does. I think Tom Holland is aces. Love him. But it's not necessarily a one or the other. Remember this. Back around D23, when it had been announced that Marvel and Sony were ending their deal to do Spider-Man, which they later revived, but at the time they said that, the understanding was Tom Holland was going to continue to be Spider-Man, but in Sony movies, in Sony exclusive movies, right? I was just saying that one of the hottest trends in Hollywood is to revive IP, but let me also say this. It is also becoming a very welcomed, beloved trend for these comic book movies to break away from everything has to be shared cinematic universe, right? Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy shared cinematic universe. I do. But I'm also tired of everything having to be in shared cinematic universe. It doesn't have to be all one or all the other. I like a mix. And that's why when Warner Brothers announced that they were going to do a standalone, separate universe kind of idea with Joker, I loved it. Because while I really do appreciate my shared cinematic universe comic book movies, I miss the true standalone kind of things. And what have we been seeing lately? Warner Brothers did that. Now we've got the Batman movie coming. There's more talks and conversations about utilizing multiverse. That's just a way of hiding the idea that these things aren't actually connected, but we call it multiverse so you could connect them if you wanted to in your head. Fine. But that's another trend. So theoretically speaking, and by the way, James Bonner sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, man. Theoretically speaking, Sony could theoretically have a Miles Morales animated Spider-Verse movies. And you guys know how much I love that first Into the Spider-Verse movie. They could have a Tom Holland Spider-Man Sonyverse movie. And they could have totally separate, like Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves' Batman is separate from the DCEU proper. You could have a totally separate Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 4. Are there problems with that idea? Yes. Are there drawbacks? Absolutely. Am I saying it's a perfect thing? No, I'm not. I'm just saying there are possibilities. So if you don't like this idea of Raimi and Maguire because you're a fan of Holland, it's not necessarily one or the other. You could still get both. But now we're just talking possibilities. Now we're just talking possibilities, not probabilities. And by the way, Leo Liang sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Leo. So I don't know. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole thing? Do you think that all the things I listed out here, suggest that there could be rational reasons to believe that, hey, maybe there are talks going on about that? Again, if I had to bet $5 on it, I bet it's not true. I would bet it's not actually happening. But I don't think you're crazy if you think there is for all of those reasons. What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section and let us know your thoughts.